Fisherman saves trapped whale. Then it does the unthinkable. The salty air whipped through Elias's gray beard as he steered his battered fishing boat, the salty dog, through the choppy waters off the coast of Maine. Elias, a man weathered by years of sun and sea, was known in the small town of Bayside as a gruff but kind-hearted soul. He'd spent his entire life on the ocean, inheriting his father's love for fishing and his grandfather's boat. But lately, the sea hadn't been kind to Elias. His catches had been dwindling. His old bones ached more than usual, and his wife, Mary, the love of his life, had passed away a year ago, leaving a hole in his heart as vast as the ocean he sailed. Elias felt adrift, much like the empty lobster traps he pulled up day after day. On this particular morning, the sea seemed especially restless. The sun struggled to pierce through the thick blanket of gray clouds, and the wind carried a chill that seeped into Elias's bones despite his thick woolen sweater. He'd been out since dawn, his nets empty, his hope fading with each passing hour. Just as he was about to turn back, he noticed something unusual in the distance. A dark shape bobbed on the surface, larger than any fish he'd ever seen. As he steered the salty dog closer, his heart pounded in his chest. It was a whale, a magnificent humpback, its massive body encrusted with barnacles. Elias had seen whales before, but never this close. This one seemed to be in distress, its movements sluggish, its usually playful spout replaced by weak puffs of air. Elias cautiously approached the whale, his fisherman's instincts kicking in. He noticed the creature was entangled in a mass of fishing nets, the thick ropes cutting into its flesh. The whale's mournful cries echoed across the water, a sound that tugged at Elias's heartstrings. He knew he had to help. He maneuvered the salty dog closer, careful not to spook the already distressed whale. He reached for his trusty knife, a tool that had gutted countless fish, and now would hopefully save a life far grander than any he'd ever encountered. As he leaned over the edge of his boat, the whale's massive eye met his, and in that moment, Elias felt a connection, a shared understanding between man and beast. The whale's eye, the size of a dinner plate, held Elias's gaze. It was an ancient eye, filled with a wisdom that spoke of vast oceans and untold journeys. Elias felt a strange calmness wash over him, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt since Mary's passing. He gripped his knife firmly, his weathered hands surprisingly steady. He carefully maneuvered the salty dog closer, the small boat rocking precariously against the whale's immense bulk. The barnacles, sharp and unforgiving, scraped against the hull, a reminder of the delicate dance he was engaged in. One wrong move and he could injure the whale further or worse, capsize his boat. But Elias was a man of the sea, his instincts honed by years of facing its unpredictable nature. He reached out, his knife glinting in the pale sunlight, and began to carefully saw through the thick ropes of the fishing net. The whale remained surprisingly still, as if sensing Elias's intentions. With each cut, the whale's massive body shuddered, and Elias could feel the creature's growing anxiety. He worked quickly, his heart pounding in his chest, the salty spray stinging his eyes. Finally, with a last decisive slice, the net fell away, and the whale was free. For a moment, the whale remained motionless, as if stunned by its newfound freedom. Then, with a powerful flick of its tail, it dove beneath the waves, disappearing into the depths. Elias watched, his breath catching in his throat, unsure if he would ever see the magnificent creature again. Just as disappointment began to creep in, the whale resurfaced, its spout shooting a triumphant plume of water into the air. It circled the salty dog, its massive body dwarfing the small fishing boat. Elias felt a surge of adrenaline, a mix of fear and exhilaration. Then, the whale did something unexpected. It swam alongside the salty dog, its massive head nudging the boat gently. Elias reached out a hesitant hand, his fingers brushing against the whale's barnacle-encrusted skin. Felt rough, yet strangely warm. The whale emitted a low, rumbling sound, a sound that seemed to vibrate through Elias's very being. As the sun finally broke through the clouds, casting a golden glow on the scene, Elias knew he had witnessed something extraordinary. He had not only saved a whale, but he had also found a connection, a spark of hope in the vast emptiness that had consumed him since Mary's passing. The whale continued to circle the salty dog, its movements graceful despite its immense size. Elias, still gripping his knife, felt a sense of awe wash over him. He'd heard tales of whales showing gratitude to those who helped them, but he never imagined he'd experience it firsthand. As the whale swam alongside the boat, it emitted a series of low, rumbling sounds. Elias, a man who knew the language of the sea like the back of his hand, recognized these as whale songs, the complex communication used by these magnificent creatures. But these songs were different. They seemed directed at him, filled with a sense of urgency. Elias listened intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. He couldn't understand the whale's exact words, but he sensed a plea, a request for further assistance. He looked closer at the whale, noticing a deep gash on its side, likely caused by the fishing net. The wound was still bleeding, a stark reminder of the ordeal the whale had endured. Elias knew he couldn't leave the whale in this condition. He had to help, even if it meant risking his own safety. He steered the salty dog closer, following the whale as it slowly swam towards a small, secluded cove. The cove was sheltered from the open sea, its calm waters offering a safe haven for the injured creature. As the whale entered the cove, it swam towards a shallow, sandy area. Elias followed, his heart pounding with a mix of apprehension and determination. The whale beached itself gently, its massive body resting on the sand. Elias jumped out of the salty dog, wading through the shallow water towards the whale. He examined the wound, his years of experience with fishhooks and fishing line injuries coming in handy. He knew he needed to clean the wound and stop the bleeding. He rushed back to the salty dog, gathering his first aid kit and some clean rags. As he worked on the whale's wound, cleaning it with seawater and applying a makeshift bandage, he felt a deep connection to the creature. He talked to it softly, reassuring it, his voice a soothing balm in the quiet cove. The whale seemed to understand, its massive eye fixed on Elias with a trust that touched him deeply. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the cove. Elias knew he couldn't stay much longer. He had to return to Bayside before nightfall. He gave the whale one last pat on its barnacle-covered skin, a silent promise to return. As he steered the salty dog out of the cove, he looked back at the whale, its silhouette outlined against the fiery sunset. He knew this was just the beginning of their story, a story that would forever change his life. Elias returned to Bayside under the cloak of twilight, his heart filled with a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. He docked the salty dog at the weathered pier, the familiar creaks and groans of the old wood a comforting sound. As he stepped onto the dock, he was greeted by the curious stares of his fellow fishermen. News traveled fast in a small town like Bayside, and word of Elias's encounter with the whale had already spread through the community. Some were skeptical, dismissing it as an old man's tale, fueled by too much time alone at sea. Others were intrigued, their eyes wide with wonder as they peppered Elias with questions. Elias, a man of few words, simply nodded and grunted in response, preferring to keep the details of his experience to himself. He knew that no one would truly understand the connection he felt with the whale, the sense of purpose it had rekindled within him. He made his way to his small, white-clapboard house, its paint peeling and porch steps creaking. The house felt empty without Mary, her absence a constant ache in his heart. He heated up a can of clam chowder, the familiar aroma filling the silence. As he ate, his thoughts drifted back to the whale, to its mournful cries and the trusting gaze in its eye. He knew he had to return to the cove, to check on the whale's wound and offer further assistance. But he also knew that he couldn't keep his encounter a secret forever. The townsfolk were curious, and some were even worried about the presence of such a large creature so close to their shores. The next morning, Elias gathered his supplies, including a fresh batch of Mary's special fish salve, known for its healing properties. He headed towards the pier, his footsteps heavy with the weight of his decision. He would return to the cove, but this time he wouldn't go alone. He approached young Billy, the son of his late friend, a bright-eyed boy with a thirst for adventure. Billy had always admired Elias, his stories of the sea fueling the boy's imagination. Elias knew that Billy would be trustworthy and discreet. "Billy," Elias said, his voice gruff but kind, "I need your help with something. Come with me." Billy's eyes widened with excitement, and without hesitation, he jumped onto the salty dog. As they set off towards the cove, Elias felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this unexpected friendship with the whale would not only heal his own wounds, but also bring a sense of wonder and connection to the small town of Bayside. The salty dog cut through the morning mist, leaving a trail of ripples in its wake. Billy, perched excitedly at the bow, scanned the horizon, his young eyes eager to catch a glimpse of the magnificent creature Elias had described. Elias, at the helm, felt a sense of responsibility for the boy's safety, but also a flicker of joy at sharing this extraordinary experience. As they approached the cove, the whale's spout rose like a geyser in the distance. Billy gasped, his jaw dropping in awe. The whale, sensing their presence, swam towards the entrance of the cove, its massive body gliding effortlessly through the water. Elias steered the salty dog closer, allowing Billy to get a good look at the whale. The boy's eyes sparkled with wonder, his face alight with a mixture of fear and fascination. He reached out a hesitant hand, wanting to touch the creature, but Elias gently pulled him back. "She's still healing, Billy," Elias explained. "We need to be careful." Billy nodded, his excitement tempered with understanding. Elias anchored the salty dog a safe distance from the whale and, with Billy close behind, waded into the shallow water. The whale remained calm, its massive eye following their every move. Elias examined the wound, relieved to see that it was healing well. He applied Mary's fish salve, the soothing balm bringing a visible sense of relief to the whale. Billy watched intently, his young mind absorbing every detail of this extraordinary encounter. As Elias worked, he told Billy about the whale's songs, the mournful cries that had tugged at his heart. He explained how he felt a connection to the creature, a sense of understanding that transcended language. Billy listened, his eyes wide with wonder. The day passed quickly, filled with quiet moments of observation and shared awe. Elias taught Billy about the different types of whales, their migration patterns, and the importance of protecting these gentle giants. Billy, in turn, shared his dreams of becoming a marine biologist, his passion for the ocean ignited by this encounter. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Elias and Billy prepared to leave. They bid farewell to the whale, promising to return the next day. On the journey back to Bayside, Billy was unusually quiet. Elias glanced at the boy, noticing a thoughtful expression on his face. "What are you thinking, Billy?" Elias asked. "I think she's lonely, Elias," Billy replied, his voice filled with empathy. "She needs a friend." Elias smiled, touched by the boy's compassion. He knew that Billy was right. The whale was alone, far from its pod, injured and vulnerable. And perhaps, just perhaps, they could offer her the companionship she needed. The story of Elias and the whale, carried on the tide of Billy's youthful enthusiasm, spread through Bayside like wildfire. What was once met with skepticism now bloomed into a shared fascination. The fishermen, hardened by years of wrestling with the sea, found themselves drawn to the tale of this unlikely friendship. Their usual gruff conversations at the docks were peppered with questions about the whale, its health, and its strange bond with Elias. Even Mrs. Henderson, the town's oldest resident and notorious gossip, found herself trading rumors for genuine concern. Her usual sharp tongue softened as she inquired about the whale's well-being, her weathered hands knitting a warm blanket, just in case that poor creature gets chilly out there. Elias, initially hesitant to share his experience, found himself opening up to the growing curiosity. He recounted the whale's gentle nudges, the mournful songs, and the sense of understanding that passed between them. He spoke of Billy's unwavering belief that the whale was lonely, a sentiment that resonated with the townsfolk, many of whom knew the sting of solitude all too well. A collective desire to help took root in Bayside. Fishermen, who once competed for the best catch, now shared their knowledge of whale behavior, offering suggestions on how to ease the creature's loneliness. The local baker, known for his hearty sourdough bread, baked extra loaves for the boy and the old man who spend their days with the whale. Even the children, inspired by Billy's adventure, drew pictures of the whale and left them on Elias's doorstep, each crayon-colored masterpiece a testament to the town's growing affection for the creature. This wave of empathy extended beyond the human residents of Bayside. The local dogs, usually content with chasing seagulls and barking at passing boats, now gathered at the edge of the pier each morning, their tails wagging in anticipation of the salty dog's departure. They seemed to sense the importance of Elias's mission, their barks a chorus of encouragement as he and Billy set off for the cove. The cove itself seemed to respond to this newfound harmony. The water sparkled with an almost magical luminescence, and the air hummed with a gentle energy. The seagulls, usually boisterous and demanding, circled the whale with respectful distance, their cries softer, as if in deference to the creature's vulnerability. As Elias and Billy tended to the whale's wound, they felt the presence of the entire town with them, a silent wave of support washing over the cove. The whale, too, seemed to sense this collective embrace, its mournful songs now laced with a hint of contentment. Bayside, once a quiet fishing town, had found a new purpose, united by a shared compassion for a creature that had sought refuge in their waters. The whale, now affectionately named Grace by the townsfolk, continued to heal under the care of Elias and Billy. The gash on her side closed steadily, and her strength returned with each passing day. She grew more playful, breaching the surface with joyful abandon, her massive body glistening in the sunlight. Her songs, once filled with loneliness, now echoed with a newfound vibrancy, a melody of gratitude that resonated throughout the cove. One morning, as Elias and Billy approached the cove, they noticed a strange sight. Grace was circling a large object floating on the surface, her movements agitated. As they drew closer, they realized it was a massive fishing net, tangled and heavy, a hazard to any marine creature that crossed its path. Elias, remembering Grace's own ordeal with a similar net, felt a surge of anger. He knew these nets, often lost or discarded by careless fishermen, posed a serious threat to the delicate balance of the ocean. He steered the salty dog closer, determined to free the net and prevent further harm. Billy, ever eager to help, grabbed a gaff and began pulling the net towards the boat. It was heavy work, the net laden with seaweed and debris, but with combined effort, they managed to haul it aboard the salty dog. As they untangled the net, they discovered something unexpected. Trapped within its folds were dozens of lobsters, their claws clicking in distress. Elias and Billy looked at each other, their eyes wide with surprise. This wasn't just any net. It was a lost lobster trap, filled with a valuable catch. Elias knew the trap belonged to one of the fishermen in Bayside. It was a significant loss, one that could impact a family's livelihood. He decided to return the trap and its contents to its rightful owner, a gesture of goodwill that he hoped would further strengthen the bond between the town and Grace. News of the recovered trap spread quickly through Bayside. The grateful fisherman, whose family had been struggling, praised Elias and Billy's honesty and kindness. He insisted on sharing the catch with the entire town, a feast of lobster rolls and clam chowder that brought the community together in celebration. That evening, as the townsfolk gathered around bonfires on the beach, sharing stories and laughter, they looked out at the cove, where Grace's spout illuminated by the moonlight. They knew that Grace had not only brought them closer together but had also reminded them of the sea's generosity and the importance of respecting its delicate ecosystem. The lost trap, once a symbol of misfortune, had become a symbol of unity and gratitude, a gift from the sea, delivered by their unlikely friend, Grace. The summer days drifted by in a haze of sunshine and salt water. Grace thrived in the sheltered cove, her playful breeches and melodic songs becoming a familiar part of Bayside's rhythm. Elias and Billy continued their daily visits, their bond with the whale deepening with each passing day. But as the days shortened and the air grew crisp, a shadow fell over their peaceful haven. One blustery afternoon, a group of strangers arrived in Bayside. They were rough-looking men, their faces weathered and their eyes hardened by years spent at sea. They spoke in hushed tones, their words carried on the wind to Elias's ears as he mended his nets on the pier. "Heard tell of a whale," one man growled. "A big one, stays close to shore." "Aye," another replied. "Easy pickings. Fetch a good price on the black market." Elias's blood ran cold. He recognized the glint of greed in their eyes, the ruthless determination of men who valued profit over life. These were whalers, drawn to Bayside by rumors of Grace. He knew they wouldn't hesitate to harm her, to exploit her gentle nature for their own gain. A fierce protectiveness surged within Elias. He had vowed to protect Grace, and he wouldn't let these men harm her. He hurried to the cove, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anger. He found Grace swimming peacefully, unaware of the danger lurking on the horizon. He explained the situation to Billy, who listened with wide, frightened eyes. They knew they had to act quickly to protect Grace from these ruthless hunters. But how could they, two men and a boy, stand against a group of hardened whalers? Elias, drawing on his years of experience at sea, devised a plan. They would use the cover of night to lure Grace further into the cove, to a hidden inlet known only to a few local fishermen. The inlet was narrow and treacherous, accessible only by small boats. It was a risky maneuver, but it was their only chance to keep Grace safe. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the water, Elias and Billy set their plan in motion. They used a small dinghy to tow a line of fish scraps, creating a trail that led Grace towards the hidden inlet. The whale, trusting their guidance, followed the enticing scent. The whalers, meanwhile, prepared their boat, a sleek and powerful vessel equipped with harpoons and other deadly tools. They were confident in their ability to capture Grace, unaware of the trap that awaited them. As darkness fell, Elias and Billy guided Grace into the narrow inlet. The whalers, following close behind, entered the treacherous passage, their boat scraping against the rocky walls. They were so focused on their prey that they didn't notice the submerged rocks, a hidden danger that Elias knew well. Suddenly, there was a sickening crunch as the whaler's boat ran aground, its hull splintering against the unforgiving rocks. The men cried out in alarm, their boat listing precariously. Grace, sensing the danger, let out a powerful bellow, her massive body creating waves that rocked the whaler's boat even further. Elias and Billy watched from a safe distance, their hearts pounding in their chests. They knew they had succeeded in protecting Grace, but they also knew that the whalers were in trouble. Despite their ruthless intentions, Elias couldn't leave them to their fate. He steered the salty dog towards the stranded boat, ready to offer assistance. The whalers, humbled by their predicament and awed by the whale's power, accepted Elias's help. They were towed back to Bayside, their dreams of capturing Grace shattered against the rocks of the hidden inlet. They left town the next morning, their tails between their legs, a stark reminder of the consequences of greed and disrespect for the creatures of the sea. The incident with the whalers shook Bayside to its core, but it also had an unexpected effect. It solidified the bond between the townsfolk, forging a sense of unity and shared purpose that went beyond their initial fascination with Grace. The near disaster had awakened a protective instinct within them, a fierce determination to safeguard their newfound harmony. The town council, usually preoccupied with mundane matters like road repairs and fishing quotas, now held meetings dedicated to protecting Grace and preserving the delicate ecosystem of the cove. They enacted stricter regulations on fishing practices, limiting net sizes and designating certain areas as whale sanctuaries. They even invited marine biologists to Bayside, eager to learn more about whale behavior and conservation efforts. The children of Bayside, inspired by Billy's friendship with Grace, formed a Whale Watchers Club. They spent their days observing Grace from a safe distance, documenting her movements and learning about her habits. They organized beach cleanups, removing plastic and debris that could harm marine life. They even wrote letters to government officials, urging them to protect whales and their ocean habitat. Elias, once a solitary figure, found himself at the center of this transformation. He became a respected voice in the community, his wisdom and experience sought after by both young and old. He shared his knowledge of the sea, teaching the children about its wonders and its fragility. He even started a small workshop, repairing fishing nets and teaching sustainable fishing practices. The women of Bayside, led by Mrs. Henderson, organized fundraising events to support whale conservation efforts. They baked pies, knitted scarves, and held raffles, their collective energy transforming the town hall into a hub of activity. The money they raised was donated to organizations dedicated to protecting whales and their environment. Even the local dogs seemed to sense the shift in the town's atmosphere. They patrolled the beaches with renewed vigilance, barking at any unfamiliar boats that approached the cove. They became honorary members of the Whale Watchers Club, their wagging tails and playful barks a constant reminder of the joy and innocence that Grace had brought to Bayside. As the seasons changed and the years passed, Bayside became known as the Whale Town. Tourists flocked to the small coastal community, drawn by the story of Grace and the town's dedication to conservation. They came to witness the majestic whale breaching in the cove, to learn about the delicate balance of the ocean, and to experience the sense of unity and purpose that permeated the town. Bayside had found its identity, its purpose intertwined with the fate of a gentle giant who had sought refuge in their waters. Grace, in turn, had found a safe haven, a community that embraced her and celebrated her presence. The bond between them, forged in an unlikely encounter, had transformed a quiet fishing town into a beacon of hope for the future of whales and the ocean they called home. Years spun by like the tides, each one leaving its mark on Bayside and its inhabitants. Elias, his hair now as white as the seafoam, moved with a slower gait, his weathered hands gnarled with age. Billy, no longer the wide-eyed boy, had blossomed into a young man, his youthful energy tempered with a quiet wisdom gained from years spent by Grace's side. The salty dog, patched and repainted countless times, still carried them to the cove, though its journeys were less frequent now. Grace, too, showed the passage of time. Her barnacles grew thicker, her movements less exuberant, her songs carrying a hint of weariness. Yet, the bond between them remained strong, a silent understanding that transcended the years. Bayside flourished. The influx of tourism brought prosperity, but the town never lost sight of its core values. The Whale Watchers Club, now led by a new generation of children, continued its work, their youthful enthusiasm a testament to the enduring legacy of Grace's presence. One day, as Elias and Billy approached the cove, they found Grace unusually still. She lay near the surface, her breathing shallow, her usually vibrant eye clouded. A deep sense of foreboding washed over them. They knew this day would come, but nothing could have prepared them for the profound sadness that gripped their hearts. They stayed with Grace throughout the day, their hands resting on her barnacle-encrusted skin, their voices soft murmurs of comfort. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the cove, Grace took her last breath, her massive body sinking slowly beneath the waves. A collective grief swept over Bayside. The town mourned the loss of its beloved whale, its protector, its friend. The Whale Watchers Club held a candlelight vigil on the beach, their tears mingling with the salt water as they shared stories of Grace's gentle nature and the joy she had brought to their lives. Elias, his heart heavy with sorrow, found solace in the memories of their shared years. He remembered the day he first encountered Grace, her mournful cries echoing across the water. He remembered the trust in her eyes, the gentle nudges, the playful breaches. He remembered the sense of purpose she had rekindled within him, the connection that had healed his wounded spirit. Billy, now a young man on the cusp of adulthood, grieved the loss of his childhood companion. Grace had been his confidant, his teacher, his inspiration. He vowed to carry her legacy forward, dedicating his life to protecting whales and their ocean home. The passing of Grace marked the end of an era in Bayside, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter. The town, forever changed by her presence, would continue to honor her memory, its spirit of unity and conservation, a lasting tribute to the gentle giant who had found refuge in their waters. The loss of Grace left a void in Bayside, but her spirit lived on in the hearts of its people. The town, once a sleepy fishing village, had blossomed into a thriving hub of ecotourism, its identity forever intertwined with the majestic creature that had graced its shores. Billy, now a marine biologist, returned to Bayside after years of study and research. He established the Grace Marine Research Center, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to studying and protecting whales and their ocean habitat. He organized educational programs for children and adults, sharing his knowledge and passion for the creatures he had come to love. The research center became a beacon of hope, attracting scientists and students from around the world. They conducted groundbreaking research on whale migration patterns, communication, and the impact of human activities on their survival. Their findings informed conservation efforts, leading to stricter regulations on fishing practices, noise pollution, and marine debris. Elias, though his sailing days were behind him, remained a revered figure in Bayside. He often visited the research center, sharing stories of his encounters with Grace and imparting his wisdom to the younger generation. He became a mentor to Billy, guiding him in his research and encouraging his dedication to conservation. The town council, inspired by Grace's legacy, implemented sustainable practices throughout Bayside. They invested in renewable energy sources, reduced waste, and promoted eco-friendly businesses. Bayside became a model for other coastal communities, demonstrating that economic prosperity and environmental stewardship could go hand in hand. The Whale Watchers Club, now a multi-generational organization, continued to play a vital role in Bayside's conservation efforts. They organized beach cleanups, monitored whale activity, and educated tourists about responsible whale watching practices. They became ambassadors for Grace's legacy, spreading awareness about the importance of protecting these magnificent creatures. Bayside's transformation extended beyond its borders. The town's story resonated with people around the world, inspiring them to take action to protect whales and their ocean home. Donations poured in to support the research center and conservation efforts, a testament to the global impact of Grace's story. As the years passed, Bayside continued to thrive, its economy and its environment flourishing in harmony. The town became a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of human compassion and the enduring legacy of a gentle giant who had found refuge in its waters. Decades drifted by, painting Bayside with the soft hues of time. The old pier, weathered and worn, still stood as a silent sentinel, witnessing the ebb and flow of life. The salty dog, now a cherished relic, rested in the town square, a monument to a bygone era and a testament to an extraordinary friendship. Elias, his life a tapestry woven with the threads of the sea, had long since passed, his memory enshrined in the hearts of those who knew him. Billy, his hair streaked with silver, now led the Grace Marine Research Center, his passion for conservation undimmed by the passage of time. Bayside had evolved, embracing the future while honoring its past. The town bustled with activity, a vibrant mix of locals and tourists, all drawn to the unique charm of a community that had found harmony with nature. One crisp autumn morning, a familiar song echoed through the cove. It was a whale song, a melody filled with both joy and sorrow, a song that resonated with the memories of those who had known Grace. Billy, his heart stirring with recognition, rushed to the research center's observation deck. There, in the distance, a magnificent humpback whale breached the surface, its massive body glistening in the sunlight. It was not Grace, but it was her descendant, a testament to the enduring legacy of her lineage. The whale circled the cove, its song echoing through the town, a reminder of the bond that had forever changed Bayside. The townsfolk gathered on the shore, their faces a mixture of awe and nostalgia. They watched as the whale performed a graceful ballet, its movements a mirror of its ancestor. They listened to its song, a melody that carried the echoes of Grace's spirit, a message of hope and resilience. Billy, his eyes filled with tears, felt a profound sense of connection to the whale, a connection that spanned generations. He knew that Grace's legacy lived on, not only in the thriving ecosystem of Bayside, but also in the hearts of its people. The whale, after a final, breathtaking breach, turned towards the open sea, its song fading into the distance. As it disappeared over the horizon, a sense of peace settled over Bayside. They had witnessed a miracle, a testament to the enduring power of nature, a reminder that even in the face of loss, life finds a way to continue. Bayside, the whale town, would forever cherish the memory of Grace, the gentle giant who had brought them together, taught them the importance of conservation, and left an indelible mark on their hearts. Her story, passed down through generations, would continue to inspire, reminding them of the profound connection between humans and the natural world, a connection that transcends time and echoes in the depths of the ocean.